Good morning, Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for Tuesday, July 24th, 2012. Signs of change in the tropics today. We'll take a look at the broad picture here. A small area primarily associated with the frontal system up here. Hurricane Center's outlined with a 10% chance of development. A little burst of convection here with this low pressure center, but it's still attached to this front. And until it detaches, if it ever does, it really won't be considered tropical. We'll see what happens. Any shipping interest around this could experience some gale-forced winds. Then, off the coast of Africa, I think this catches your attention. A very healthy tropical wave emerging off of Africa. It's getting to be that time of year with a week to go until August. Things are going to start to become more interesting out in the eastern Atlantic. Looking at the Saharan air layer analysis from the University of Wisconsin, notice that we're starting to erode the SAL in the deep tropics. Most of the dry, dusty air now coming off over northwest Africa instead of dipping south here into the deep tropics. So these little impulses of energy, these waves of low pressure that come off of Africa, are going to have a chance to develop as they come off in succession. One after the other, the chances begin to increase. It's still a slow process, but times are definitely changing, and you can even see that on the water vapor imagery. While we do have a tremendous amount of dry, sinking air covering much of the deep tropics, you can see on the eastern side of the satellite picture a plume of moisture starting to work its way in, and these waves of energy, these additional packets of moisture, will come out and sort of seed this region through here, eventually making it more moist and unstable, working out enough of that dry air that eventually, as you know, by August and September, we will start to see these tropical waves develop. The big question will be, though, when do they develop? This is the Cape Verde Islands right here, and here we have the Eastern Caribbean islands, the Lesser Antilles. The farther east that these storms develop, let's say they start to develop here, they usually turn out to sea more often than not. And the opposite is true typically if they develop later. Perhaps in this region right here, then they can impact land areas, obviously the Lesser Antilles first, or even come on up and threaten the United States, the East Coast, get into the Gulf, or go on through the Caribbean. Where these storms develop this year will be critical in terms of the impact that they have on land areas, and it's just impossible to pinpoint that right now, but that's something to keep in mind. If we see development out here where they become a depression or a named storm in this region, then the chances are they'll reach a certain longitude and then turn out to sea due to troughs that dig off the east coast and erode the Bermuda High, and away these systems go. However, if they develop farther west, somewhere in this region perhaps, or of course up here, then they have a much better chance of affecting the United States and surrounding land masses. So keep that in mind. We will be pinpointing that once we start to see development. I will bring this issue up again. In the Eastern Pacific, invest area 90E down to 70%. It's losing some of its oomph, I guess. Not as well organized as it once was. If we look at a different satellite perspective, it still has the banding sort of S shape to it, but just not quite as well organized. These competing blobs of convection nearby, perhaps robbing it of some of its energy. Maybe there's just enough sinking motion in this region. Not quite as favorable as it was when we had Daniel, Amelia, and Fabio. Even if this does develop, it won't pose any risk at all. No threat at all to Mexico. This is being headed to the west-northwest. We'll keep our eye on this system that might try to organize a little bit more and develop over the next day or so. And that is that. So still fairly quiet across the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific. Obviously no tropical storms or hurricanes to track, but that may start to change over the next week or so, especially as we get into August, which of course is typical. So nothing alarming about that. August and September, the traditional ramping up of the hurricane season. Hope you're prepared for it, because you never know when that one could come knocking on your door. You want to make sure you're ready. Alright, again, I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. Always glad to provide these videos for Hurricane and Hurricane HD, and I'll have another one for you tomorrow.